CEO wife sneered at my post-divorce smile. By dawn, she learned I bought the company. The gavel came down. And that was it. 8 years. Gone in one syllable. Tori didn't even wait for the court reporter to stop typing. She stood, smoothing the front of her charcoal Dior suit, and looked down at me like I was something she found stuck to her shoe in the loop. You really thought you'd walk away with leverage? She asked, voice low enough that only I could hear over the shuffling papers. Please, you're not built for this league. Julian, I didn't rise. Just clicked my pen shut and slid it into the inside pocket of my jacket. See you Monday. Tori. She laughed, one sharp, bright bark of amusement. Monday? What? You're gonna be camped outside my attorney's office again? Pathetic. She turned to Grant, who was leaning against the wall by the door, scrolling through his phone. Ready? I've got a 9 o'clock with the board, and I'm not letting this. She flicked her fingers at me. Ruin my morning. Grant didn't look up. Yeah, cars outside. They walked out together. Tori's heels clicking down the marble hallway, like she was marking time on a countdown I hadn't been told about. I stayed seated until the bailiff cleared the room. Then I stood, adjusted my cuffs, and walked the other way. Out front, the vultures were already circling. A guy from the Tribune shoved a mic toward me. Julian, any comment on the settlement? Sources say you walked away with nothing. I kept moving toward the black S-Class idling at the curb. No comment. Tori Sterling says this proves you were never a real player at SDG. Another shouted. She says you couldn't even negotiate your way out of a prenup. I paused at the car door. Look back at them. She said that. Did she? On the record. The first guy pressed. I opened the door. Then I guess she'll be surprised on Monday. I got in, pulled the door shut, and said to the driver, go. He merged into traffic without a word. Typical Chicago, gray sky, gray buildings. Everyone moving like they had somewhere to be and someone to bury when they got there. My phone buzzed before we hit Washington Street. Marcus, done? He asked. Just signed the final order. I said, she's already spinning it to the press. Let her. Marcus sounded like he was chewing something. Probably a cigar. We're green across the board. 6.8 million shares locked. Our threshold hits at 4:59. No leaks. I said, not a word to the Journal. Not to Bloomberg. If Tori catches wind before the bell, she'll start calling in favors from the trustees. Relax. We've got Elena feeding us her internal calendar. Tori's throwing a party tonight at the Gold Coast place, celebrating her freedom. He snorted. Idiot doesn't realize she's the only one not invited to the real event. I leaned back against the leather seat. Where's Derek? Still in the dark. Thinks we're just another activist fund building a position. He's too busy kissing Tories as to notice the filings. Good. I watched a group of cyclists swerve around a pothole. Keep him there until 5 a.m. Then he gets to explain to her why the CFO didn't see a 35% stake coming. Marcus laughed. You know she's going to try to rally the family shareholders, right? Her uncle's still on the trust. He's already with us. I said, quietly, Elena had dinner with him last week. Showed him the numbers on what Tori's done to the operating margin in APAC. He's not sentimental. He wants a dividend check. Not a legacy vanity project. Cold, Marcus said. Approving. I like it. It's not cold. It's math. I ended the call and opened the secure messaging app. Elena had sent a screenshot. Tori's party guest list. Half the board. 2 aldermen. Some hedge fund guys who thought they were tighter with her than they actually were. I typed back, let her enjoy tonight. Tomorrow, she's the one explaining herself. Elena replied instantly. She just posted on Instagram. Caption, new chapter. Same queen. Want me to save it for the board deck? I smiled. First time all day. Add it to the cultural audit section. The car stopped outside my building in the West Loop. No signage. Just a lobby with a guard who nodded as I walked past. Upstairs. The office was quiet except for the hum of servers. I poured a coffee, black, no sugar, and sat at the desk. 3 monitors. One showed the SDG stock chart, flatlining like a patient on life support. Another displayed the cascade of trades we'd structured through 4 different prime brokers. The third was a live feed of the SEC's EDGAR database, refreshing every 10 seconds. At 8 p.m., Marcus called again. She's giving a speech at the party, live streaming it to the SDG internal channel. Elena's patched the audio into your line. I put him on speaker. Tori's voice filled the room, crisp and champagne loose. And some people just aren't built for this world. You give them a seat at the table, and they spend the whole time wondering when you're going to take it away. But I don't operate that way. I build, I lead, and I sure as hell don't need a husband to validate my corner office. Laughter in the background, glass clinking. She's really leaning into the I won narrative, Marcus murmured. Let her, I said. On the screen, the clock ticked toward midnight. She's not winning. She's just loud. Tori again by Monday. Certain individuals will realize that crossing me isn't just bad strategy. It's career suicide. I'd wish them luck. But honestly, they wouldn't know what to do with it. Someone cheered. Grant's voice. To the queen of SDG. More laughter. I muted the feed. At 2 a.m., Elena called. She's drunk. Telling people you cried during the mediation. Said you begged her to reconsider. Did I? I asked, already knowing the answer. You offer her a settlement that would have let her keep the Aspen place. She threw it in the shredder. Elena paused. She also said you'd never understand real power because you're just a lawyer playing investor. I glanced at the monitor. The EDGAR page refreshed. Nothing yet. Real power is getting what you want without having to announce it first. Agreed. Also, she just moved another 50 grand to the corporate card. Dinner, flowers, and a jeweler on Oak Street. Grant's birthday is next month. Log it. I said, CFO will have fun explaining that one to the audit committee. By 3:30, the office was darker. I turned off the overheads. Worked by the glow of the screens. Marcus texted. Final confirmation from the syndicate. Where'd it go? Legals reviewed the 13D. Clean. I typed back. Execute at 4:59. Not a second earlier. At 4:15. I stood by the window. No view to speak of. Just the brick wall of the next building over. But I could feel the city holding its breath. Somewhere uptown. Tori was asleep in a bed she thought she owned. Somewhere downtown. Traders were waking up, checking their phones, waiting for the pre-market to open. My phone buzzed. Elena, she's awake, scrolling her phone in bed. Just got a CNBC alert. The headline preview says, Sterling Drake Global sees pre-market surge on block trade. She's staring at it. I didn't reply. Just watched the clock. 4:58, 4:59. The EDGAR page refreshed. There it was. Form 13D/ Voss Capital Management. Sterling Drake Global, 34.9% ownership. I leaned back, steepled my fingers, and waited for the call that was already coming in. My phone lit up. A known number. Probably a board member. Maybe Derek. I answered. Julian Voss. Silence on the other end. Then, a sharp inhale. Tori's voice. Stripped of every ounce of smugness. Well, what is this? I smiled. Morning. Tori. Sleep well? Click. She hung up. I tossed the phone onto the desk and looked at the screen. The stock chart wasn't flat anymore. It was climbing. By dawn, she'd know exactly who bought the company. And she'd remember the exact sound of my silence when she laughed at my smile. The phone rang again at 5:17. Same unknown number. I let it ring 4 times before picking up. You got some nerve. Tori said. Her voice was lower now. Scrape raw. Some serious nerve. Morning to you too. I said. Busy day ahead. Thought I'd get a head start. Start what? A hostile takeover? Please. You filed a 13D overnight like some kind of amateur. Do you even understand how this works? The board doesn't answer to some 2-bit fund manager who happened to buy a few million shares on margin. 34.9%. I corrected. And it's not margin. It's cash. All documented. All audited. All very boring. You always hated boring. Tori, that's why you missed it. She inhaled sharply. I'm calling Derek. We're convening an emergency board meeting before 7. You'll be lucky if we don't see you into next quarter. Derek's already seen the filing. I said, called me at 5:05. Sounded like he was hyperventilating. Told him to calm down and update the cap table. You might want to check your messages before you start making threats. I hung up before she could respond. 2 minutes later, my secure line buzzed. Marcus. She's spamming the board group chat, he said, accusing us of manipulating marital assets and abusing discovery. Standard meltdown stuff. Let her talk. I said, every message is discoverable. Every accusation she makes without evidence just makes her look unstable. Elena's saving everything. Elena says Tori's on her way to the office already, wearing yesterday's clothes. By the way, Grant's not with her. Good. I said, keeps the personal drama out of the lobby. I want this clean. Clean? Marcus laughed. Julian, you just staged a coup via divorce decree. There's nothing clean about it. There is if we follow the script. I opened the folder on my desk. Thick. Labeled SDG Transition Plan. Call the General Counsel. Tell him I expect a full briefing by 6:30. And tell Elena to be in the boardroom by 7. No exceptions. At 6:15, Derek called. His voice cracked on the first word. Julian, we need to discuss the implications of the filing. The board is unsettled. Unsettled. I repeated. Or just surprised you didn't see it coming. You're the CFO. Derek, you sign off on the 10QS. You monitor the float, and you miss a third of the company changing hands. We assumed it was index rebalancing. The volumes were massed through multiple brokers. Assumptions are for people who don't run public companies. I cut in. Here's what's going to happen. 7 a.m., boardroom. You'll present the updated shareholder registry. You'll confirm Voss Capital's voting authority. And then you'll sit down and keep your mouth shut while I explain the new structure. Tori says she'll contest this. She says she'll go to the SEC, the DOJ, the governor. She can go to all three. I said, and when they asked her why she didn't disclose her own misuse of corporate aircraft for personal travel last quarter, we'll see how far her political connections stretch. Silence on his end. 7 a.m. Derek, I said, be ready at 6:50. I walked into the SDG tower. Security didn't stop me. Elena was waiting by the elevators, tablet in hand. She's upstairs. Elena said quietly, already yelling at the legal team, try to have me escorted out. I reminded her I'm here at the invitation of a controlling shareholder. How'd that go? She threw a stapler. Missed. We rode up in silence. The doors opened onto the executive floor. Staff parted like we were carrying a contagion. Tori was standing in the glass-walled boardroom. Back to us, addressing a half-circle of men in suits. Preposterous. He's leveraging a personal vendetta to destabilize a publicly traded company. I want injunctions, restraining orders, and a full internal investigation into how this acquisition was funded. Good morning, everyone, I said, stepping into the room. Heads turned. Tori froze mid-sentence. Slowly, she pivoted. Her makeup was intact, but her eyes were red at the corners. You, she said. Me, I replied. I nodded at Elena. Thanks for holding the seat. Elena took her place at the far end of the table. Derek hovered near the head, clutching a manila folder like it was a life raft. Shall we begin? I asked, pulling out the chair at the head of the table. The one Tori usually occupied. She moved to block me. This is my boardroom. You don't just walk in here and... Actually, Derek interjected, voice trembling. Per the bylaws, the largest voting shareholder has the right to preside over any meeting until a new chair is elected, and per the 13D filed this morning. Voss Capital is now the largest shareholder. Tori whipped around on him. You work for me. Derek, I work for the company. Victoria, he said, and for the first time in 3 years. He didn't flinch. And right now, the company answers to Mr. Voss. She stared at him, then at the rest of the board. None of them met her gaze. I sat down, folded my hands. Derek, please distribute the materials. He passed out thick packets. Inside the 13D, The voting agreements with the family trusts, the proxy letters from 3 institutional holders, and a draft resolution appointing me executive chairman. Torai snatched the packet and flipped through it. Her breathing got louder with every page. "This is a sham," she hissed. "These trust votes, my uncle wouldn't—" "Your uncle signed last night at 10:15. I said, after Elena showed him the internal audit on the Jakarta subsidiary. The one you told him was profitable. It's not. It's a hole we've been shoveling cash into to hide losses from the street. He's not sentimental." "Torai, neither am I." She slammed the packet down. "You're doing this to punish me. For the divorce. For laughing at you. I'm doing this because you stopped running this company like a CEO and started running it like a personal bank." I said, "The laughing? That was just confirmation I made the right call." I looked around the table. All those in favor of appointing me executive chairman. Effective immediately? Hands went up, slowly at first, then all at once. Derek raised his last, like he was trying not to be noticed. Opposed? I asked. Tori's hand shot up. Alone. Motion carries. I said, "Derek, please note the resolution in the minutes. You can't do this." Torai said, voice shaking now, "I'll fight it. I'll sue. I'll call Judge Emsworth." Judge Emsworth recused herself from anything involving SDG last night after we filed a complaint about ex parte communications. I said, "You didn't know that because you were too busy celebrating your victory to check the docket." I stood, walked to the sideboard, poured a cup of the boardroom coffee, something Tori insisted on importing from Ethiopia at company expense, and took a sip. "Here's how this works now," I said, addressing the room. "I'm not here to micromanage. Elena will serve as interim president. Derek stays on as CFO, pending the Q2 audit. Victoria remains CEO on paper. But every capital expenditure over $50,000 requires my signature. Every press release goes through my office. Every hire, every termination, every market entry or exit. Cleared by me." Torai stood so fast her chair screeched. "This is a mutiny. This is fiduciary duty." I said, "Something you confuse with loyalty to yourself." She turned to the board. "You're all spineless. Every one of you. You'd rather kneel to him than stand with me?" One of the older directors, Hal Beckett, spoke up. "Victoria, we stood with you when margins were strong, when guidance was clear. But the last 2 quarters? Missed targets, restatements, whispers of an SEC inquiry. We're not kneeling to Julian. We're trying to keep this company alive." Torai stared at him like he'd slapped her. Then she looked at Grant, who was hovering near the door. "Say something." Grant shrugged. "I'm just the APAC president. Torai, not a board member, not a shareholder, not much of anything right now." Apparently, her face twitched. She turned back to me. "You've poisoned them against me." "No," I said. "You did that yourself. I just handed them the antidote." She grabbed her purse and stalked toward the door, stopped with her hand on the frame, didn't look back. "This isn't over," she said. "It is for today." I replied, "Board meeting adjourned. See you Monday." "Torai, don't be late." She left. The room stayed silent for a beat, then erupted into low, urgent conversations. Elena leaned over as I gathered my things. She'll regroup, call her uncle, try to flip the smaller holders. "Let her," I said. "We've already got the proxies. And by the time she figures out how deep this goes, she'll be too busy lawyering to run a conference call." Marcus called as I stepped into the elevator. "CNBC's running the ticker. SDG up 4% on management shakeup. You're trending on FinTwit. Tell PR to release the official statement." I said, "Sterling Drake Global announces new executive chairman to strengthen governance and long-term value. Keep it dry. And Tori? Let her talk to the gossip sites. Every quote makes her look worse." The elevator doors closed. I watched the floor numbers drop. My phone buzzed. Unknown number again. Probably her. I silenced it. At 7:59 a.m., I walked out of the building into the Chicago morning. Cold air, gray light, the river moving slow and dirty below the bridge. My driver held the door. I paused, looked back at the SDG logo etched into the glass tower. Tori was up there somewhere, staring at a screen, realizing the dawn had come and she wasn't the one who owned it anymore. I got in the car, back to the office. Yes, sir, the driver said. As we pulled away, I checked my messages. One from Elena. Grant just texted me. Asked if there's a role for him under the new structure. Said Tori overreacted. I typed back, tell him the only role available is former employee. We don't reward opportunists. Sent. Then I leaned back and closed my eyes. By Monday, the smirk would be gone. By Friday, she'd be the one explaining herself to the court. Again, Friday morning, 6:12 a.m. My phone lit up with a news alert. Wall Street Journal breaking. Questions raised over Voss Capital's timing in SDG takeover. I tapped the link. Rebecca Elliott's byline. Clean. Clinical prose. Exactly how Tori liked her hatchet jobs. People familiar with the matter say Julian Voss, the newly appointed executive chairman of Sterling Drake Global, began accumulating shares weeks before his divorce decree was finalized, raising questions about whether he used marital privilege to access non-public information. I scrolled down. There was a reference to internal deliberations about Q2 guidance and confidential board materials related to the Jakarta restructuring. All phrased as sources said. I dialed Marcus. He picked up on the first ring, already swearing. It's her, he said. No question. She fed them the Jakarta numbers. Only 3 people outside this office knew those figures. Her, Derek, and that dipshit Grant. Derek's too scared to talk. I said, Grant's desperate. She probably promised him a promotion if he played ball. Should we go on the record? Kill this before the open? No. I stood, walked to the coffee machine. Let it breathe. If we react too fast, it looks like panic. If we ignore it, she thinks it's working. Julian, call Elena. Have her pull every email Derek sent to Tori since April. Focus on anything referencing media strategy or narrative management. Then give me the metadata on the shared drive folder labeled Q2 internal. I want timestamps. You think she doctored something? I think she's sloppy when she's angry, and she's been angry since Monday. I ended the call and opened my laptop. Pre-market was already twitchy. SDG down 1.8% on the Wall Street Journal chatter. Predictable. By 7:30, Elena was in my office, dropping a manila envelope on the desk. Found it, she said. 3 days ago, Derek created a subfolder called Comms Prep. Inside, a draft of the Wall Street Journal story. Same language, same phrasing, even the typo in restructuring that made it into the final version. I flipped through the pages. And the timestamps? He accessed the Q2 guidance file at 11:42 p.m. on Wednesday, emailed it to Tori's personal account at 11:47, deleted the folder at 12:03, but the server backups don't lie. Send it to Marcus. Have legal draft a cease and desist to Derek. CCNG the board. Make sure he knows we're not negotiating. Elena nodded. Tori's already using it internally. Sent a company-wide email an hour ago. Subject line, transparency and accountability. Basically accuses you of abusing privileged information to manipulate markets. Forward it to me. I scanned the email on my phone. Classic Tori. Lots of italics. Lots of moralizing. Zero evidence. She's tried to rally the rank and file. Get HR to issue a counter. Keep it short. All inquiries regarding governance should be directed to the office of the chairman. No details. No emotion. Done. Also, Grant's in the building. Asking for you. Of course he is. I leaned back. Send him in. Grant walked in 5 minutes later, looking like he'd slept in his suit, which he probably had. Julian, he said, attempting a handshake. I didn't move. You've got 90 seconds. I said. He cleared his throat. Look, I know things are tense, but Tori's going to keep pushing this. She's talking to Senator Halstead today. Says she can get the banking committee to request a formal review of your acquisition. Halstead's up for re-election in 18 months. I said, he's not risking a corruption charge over a divorced CEO with a grudge. What else? She's also planning to leak more about the offshore entities you used to buy the shares. She says it looks like money laundering. It looks like standard Delaware holding companies. I said, which our counsel cleared 6 weeks ago. What's your angle here? Grant, you're not here because you care about compliance. He hesitated. If I help you, if I provide context to the board about her state of mind, is there a place for me in the new structure? No. I said, you backed her when it was convenient. You stayed silent while she raided the travel budget for weekend trips to Napa. You don't get a place. You get a reference, and only if you stop lying to me right now. He flinched. I haven't. You told her about the Jakarta numbers last month. In Bangkok, over dinner. She used that to time the leak. You're not a source. Grant, you're a liability. He stood, face flushing. You'll regret this. I doubt it. I pressed the intercom. Elena, escort Mr. Chen out, and notify security he no longer has building access. She appeared at the door. Grant didn't resist, just muttered something under his breath as he left. At 9 a.m., I convened a special board meeting via video. Torai joined from her apartment, hair perfectly blown out, backdrop tastefully blurred. Before we begin, she said, I'd like to address the serious allegations reported this morning. If Mr. Voss engaged in insider trading, it's not just a scandal, it's a felony. The board has a duty to act. How Beketsigid audibly, Victoria. We've seen this playbook before. You said the same thing about the SEC inquiry 2 years ago. That went nowhere. This is different. She snapped. This involves his personal conduct during our marriage. He had access. Access to what? I cut in. The same board decks you emailed to half the city? The same guidance you discussed on recorded earnings calls? Victoria, if I'd wanted inside information, I wouldn't have needed a divorce. I could have read the Wall Street Journal, like everyone else. You're deflecting, she said. No, I said, I am presenting facts. Elena, please share Exhibit A. Elena's screen popped up. A document titled Internal Draft, Wall Street Journal Inquiry, June 18th, time-stamped, attributed to Derek Lane. This, I said, is a draft of this morning's Wall Street Journal article, found on SDG's corporate server, created by Derek Lane, CFO, at the direction of Victoria Sterling. Notice the language. Notice the errors. Notice the fact that it references financial data that was never disclosed outside this company, because Derek pulled it himself. The board murmured. Tori's face went still. That's a forgery, she said. Metadata doesn't forge. I replied, nor do backup logs, nor do the emails Derek sent to your personal account at midnight on Wednesday. We've already provided copies to the SEC voluntarily. She blinked once. You reported us? I reported the leak. I said, not you, not yet. But if the SEC decides to investigate, they'll start with the person who authorized the unauthorized disclosure of material non-public information. And that's not me. Derek's square on the Zoom grid went black. He'd logged off. Coward. Torai whispered. Strategist. I corrected. He knows where the liability lands. And it's not on my shoulders. Hal Beckett leaned into his camera. Victoria, this is deeply troubling. Using company resources to plant stories? To smear a shareholder? That's not just unethical. It's potentially criminal. I was protecting the company. She shouted. From him. From a predator who owns 35% of the company. I finished. And who just saved you from having to explain why Jakarta lost $12 million last quarter? You're welcome. By the way, she stared at the screen, chest rising and falling. For the first time, she didn't have a comeback. Here's what happens next. I said, the board will issue a statement reaffirming its confidence in current leadership, meaning me. We will cooperate fully with any regulatory inquiry. And you, Victoria, will cease all external communications regarding this company unless cleared by this office. Violate that, and I'll recommend your immediate suspension to the full board, pending a formal investigation into your role in this leak. You can't suspend me, she said, but her voice lacked conviction. I can recommend it. I said, and given the evidence, they'll agree. Unanimously. Silence. Meeting adjourned. I said, and clicked end meeting before she could respond. Elena stayed on the private line. She'll go nuclear now. Friends in high places. Political pressure. Maybe even a lawsuit. Let her sue. I said, discovery works both ways. Every text, every email, every hidden dinner with Grant. All of it comes out. She thinks she's playing defense. She's actually building our case. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. I answered. You're destroying everything. Torai said, no preamble, just pure venom. I'm cleaning up your mess. I replied, I'll ruin you. I'll call every contact I have. The governor, the AG. The AG already has our referral. I said, along with the U.S. Attorney's Office. You might want to call your own lawyer before you make another threat. It's amazing how fast protected speech becomes obstruction when you're under federal investigation. Click. She hung up again. I set the phone down. Elena was watching me. She's not done, she said. No, I agreed, but she's almost out of moves. And when she makes the next one, we'll be ready. I opened the bottom drawer of my desk, pulled out a thin folder labeled personal. Inside, a copy of the prenup she'd shredded, the one she thought was gone forever. I smiled. Let her leak. Let her sue. Let her scream to whoever would listen. By Monday, the only voice that mattered would be the one reading the SEC's response. And it wouldn't be hers. Saturday, 6:42 p.m. My phone buzzed with a text from a block number. Riverwalk, behind the Trump Tower. 1 hour. Come alone, or don't come at all. I didn't reply, just forwarded it to Elena with one word. Recording. She texted back a minute later. Done. Body mic backup on the barge. Also Grant's in the area. Pinged his phone near Michigan Avenue. I changed shirts, grabbed a slim folder from the safe, and headed out. Driver dropped me 2 blocks south. I walked the rest, hands in pockets, collar up against the wind coming off the lake. She was already there, sitting at an outdoor table at a place that thought charging $18 for an old-fashioned made it exclusive. Her back was to the river, facing the street, classic Tory, always needing an escape route. I pulled out the chair opposite her. You're blending in with the tourists. She didn't smile. Sit down. Julian. I sat. A waiter drifted over. I ordered a neat bourbon. She had a glass of Chardonnay. Half empty. You've made your point, she said, skipping the pleasantries. Now name your price. Buy me out. 30% above market. I don't care. Just let me walk before this turns into a bloodbath. Neither of us survives. 30% above a stock you helped to press with a leaked SEC inquiry? I swirled the ice in my glass. That's not a premium. That's a donation. It's leverage. She shot back. I still own 12%. I still have the family name. I still have friends who can make your life very difficult if I decide to go public with how you structured this entire takeover. Structure. I repeated. You mean the Delaware LLCs? The Series B preferreds? The pipe transaction we closed 3 weeks ago? All filed. All disclosed. All legal. Legal and ethical aren't the same thing, she said. I'll go to the press. I'll tell them you used our marriage to front-run the market. I'll tell them you hid assets in the Caymans. The Caymans? I laughed softly. Torai, we use a trust in Delaware. Basic corporate structuring. If you spent less time shopping and more time reading the 10K, you'd know that. She leaned forward, voice dropping. Then I'll go after you personally. I'll say you coerced me. I'll say you threatened me during the divorce. I'll say you abused me. And when the court asks for evidence, you'll produce what? Exactly? The texts where you call me spineless? The emails where you bragged about sleeping with Grant on our anniversary? The Instagram post mocking my post-divorce smile? I took a sip of the bourbon. You're not a victim, Victoria. You're a liability. She recoiled like I'd slapped her. Then her expression shifted, calculated. Fine, play it that way. But you forget one thing. Enlighten me. I am pregnant. I didn't blink, didn't move. Just watched her. She let the silence hang. Then smiled, small, triumphant. That's right. 8 weeks. And before you ask, yes, it's yours. The timing lines up perfectly with the mediation weekend in April. So go ahead. Julian, destroy me. See how that plays in the headlines. Billionaire chairman forces pregnant ex-wife into bankruptcy. I set my glass down. Slowly, deliberately. You're not pregnant. I said. Her smile faltered. Excuse me? You're not pregnant. I repeated. You had your IUD replaced 3 weeks ago. Myrina, 5-year model. HR flagged the insurance claim. Out-of-network provider. Cash payment. No fis at Juicy. Elena pulled the records. You didn't even use your legal name. But the billing address? Your Gold Coast penthouse. She went pale. That's a lie. You're bluffing. Am I? I slid the folder across the table. Inside, the pharmacy receipt, the clinic invoice, the lab report confirming the insertion, all time-stamped, all verified. She stared at the papers like they were venomous. You've been spying on me. I've been documenting you. I corrected. There's a difference. And while we're on the subject, your OBGYN's office called Elena last week. Left a voicemail confirming your appointment. Very professional. Very thorough. Very unpregnant. She closed the folder like it burned her fingers. This is entrapment. Entrapment is when the government induces you to commit a crime. I said, you lied. I caught you. That's not entrapment. That's accountability. She reached for her wine, then stopped, hand hovering. So that's it? You've got me cornered. And now you're just going to what? Humiliate me until I disappear? I'm going to offer you a choice. I said, sign the mutual release. Walk away with $20 million, the Aspen condo, and a non-disparagement clause that keeps your name out of the SEC filings. In exchange, you resign from SDG, surrender your remaining shares, and never set foot in another boardroom with our name on it. $20 million? She hissed. I built that company's brand. You inherited it. I cut in. Your father built it. You leased it. And you nearly bankrupted it with pet projects and personal expenses. $20 million is more than fair. It's generous. And if I don't sign, I lean back. Then Monday morning, I file a civil RICO claim against you personally, not the company. You, for conspiracy to defraud shareholders, obstruction of justice, and misappropriation of corporate assets. We'll depose Grant. We'll subpoena Derek. We'll audit every first-class ticket, every jewelry purchase, every business dinner that ended in a hotel room. You wouldn't. She whispered. I already have the draft complaint. I said, Elena's been refining it since Tuesday. It's 47 pages, single-spaced, with exhibits. She looked away. Across the river, the lights of the Navy Pier Ferris wheel blinked in the distance. You've thought of everything, she said finally, flat, defeated. I thought of everything before I filed the 13D. I said, before the divorce, before the first share change hands. You saw a husband walking away. I saw a liability that needed removing. There's a difference. She turned back. Her eyes were wet, but no tears fell. And the baby story? That was my last card. It was a bad card. I said, played by a worse player. She laughed, bitter. Hollow, you really never loved me. Did you? I respected you once. I said, when you care about margins more than mansions, when you stayed late to fix a supply chain bottleneck, instead of flying to Paris for a weekend. But that woman disappeared around the time you decided the company was your personal ATM. She didn't respond. Just stare at the folder like it contained her obituary. You have until Monday at 8 a.m. I said, standing, sign, and the wire hits your account by noon. Refuse, and the complaint drops at 9:30. Your choice. I dropped a $100 bill on the table. For the drinks. Keep the change. I walked away without looking back. Half a block later, my phone buzzed. Elena! Grant just texted her. You up? She hasn't replied. Also, Derek's lawyer called. He's willing to cooperate fully in exchange for immunity. I typed back. Tell Derek's lawyer we'll draft the proffer agreement tonight. And remind him, if he lies, we bury him with Tori. Another buzz. This one from the block number. You're a monster. I didn't reply, just deleted the thread, blocked the number, and kept walking. Behind me, the river kept flowing. Indifferent, exactly like I intended to be. By Monday, she'd either sign or she'd swing. Either way, the outcome was already written. Monday, 5:47 a.m. My phone lit up with Elena's name. She didn't sign. She said, "No greeting, just the facts." Expected. I replied, swinging my legs out of bed. Any movement at the building? Security says she tried to badge in at 5:30. Access denied. She's in the lobby now, arguing with the night supervisor. Also, Grant just pulled up in a lift. Looked like he slept in his car. Keep her contained. Don't engage. I'll be there in 20. I dressed, grabbed a leather folio with the final board resolutions, and headed downtown. The city felt hollow this early, streetlights still on, river mist clinging to the bridges. Fitting. By 6:15, I was in the SDG lobby. Tori was pacing near the security desk, still in yesterday's clothes. Hair mussed. Grant hovered by the coffee kiosk, avoiding eye contact. She spun when she saw me. You got some nerve, show your face, after what you did. What I did was file paperwork. I said, nodding at the guard. Morning. Carl, everything quiet? Yes. Mr. Voss. Carl didn't even glance at Tori. Miss Sterling attempted unauthorized access. I informed her she's been deactivated pending the board's review. Deactivated? Tori's voice climbed. I'm the CEO. You can't deactivate me. You're the CEO on paper. I said, and as of 7 a.m., you won't even be that. I turned to Grant. You're not authorized to be here either. HR will be in touch regarding your separation agreement. Grant opened his mouth, then closed it, just shuffled toward the exit. Tori lunged my arm. I sidestepped. Touch me, and I'll have you arrested for assault. I said, loud enough for the security cameras. Carl, make sure that's noted in the log. She froze. Her hand hovered in midair, then dropped. This is a coup. A fucking coup. I'll have the board reverse this. I'll have the governor call an emergency session. The board meets at 7. I said, and they've already seen the agenda. Item 1, acceptance of your resignation, effective immediately. Item 2, ratification of my appointment as executive chairman with full operational authority. Item 3, authorization for legal to file the RICO complaint we discussed. You wouldn't, she whispered. I already did. I pulled out my phone, opened the email app, sent its 6 a.m. copy to the SEC, the U.S. Attorney's Office, and the Chicago Tribune. Headline, Sterling Drake Global initiates legal action against former CEO Victoria Sterling for fraud and obstruction. Want to read it? She didn't move, just stared at the screen like it was a death warrant. Elena emerged from the elevator bank, tablet in hand. Julian, boards assembled. We're ready. Give me a minute. I said. She nodded and retreated. I looked at Tori. Last chance. Mutual release. 20 million. Aspen. Silence. Or you spend the next 3 years in discovery hell while the DOJ picks apart every first-class upgrade and jewelry receipt. Her jaw tightened. Go to hell. Already been. I said. Didn't like the company. I turned and walked toward the elevators. Behind me, I heard her start to shout something about betrayal, about blood, about how she'd burn it all down. Carl's voice cut through. Calm and practiced. Miss Sterling, you need to leave the premises or I'll have to call the police. The elevator doors closed. Elena hit the button for the executive floor. She's not leaving. Elena said, she will. I replied, once the press release hits the wire. At 7:02, we convened. The boardroom felt different this time. No tension, no whispers, just a dozen men and women in suits. Folders open, pens ready. I didn't sit at the head. I stood at the side, projector remote in hand. Good morning, I said, as you've all seen. The situation with Miss Sterling has escalated, effective immediately. I'm recommending her termination for cause. The resolution is on page 3. Please indicate your approval. Hands went up. Unanimous. Again. Second item. I continued. Appointment of Elena Ruiz as interim chief executive officer. All votes in favor? Same result. Elena gave a curt nod. already scanning the Q3 forecast on her tablet. Third, I said, authorization to release the following statement to the NYSE, SEC, and all major newswires. I clicked the remote. The screen filled with text. Sterling Drake Global announces leadership transition. Julian Voss appointed executive chairman. Victoria Sterling terminated for cause following internal investigation into misuse of corporate assets and obstruction of regulatory inquiries. Murmurs of approval. How Beckett leaned back, steepling his fingers. Clean, direct, no room for interpretation. Exactly. I said, Elena, please coordinate with PR. I want this live by 7:30, before the pre-market opens. She tapped her screen. Done. Wire services confirmed. At 7:28, my phone buzzed. News alert. SDG announces shakeup. Former CEO Sterling ousted amid investigation. I refreshed the SDG stock page. Up 3.2% in pre-market. Elena glanced at her own phone. She's outside, talking to a reporter from the Sun-Times, claiming you coerce her into signing false documents. Let her, I said. We've got the documents. We've got the metadata. We got Derek's proffer agreement landing on the U.S. Attorney's desk at 9. Grant's lawyers just called. Elena added, he's willing to testify about the Jakarta dinners in exchange for immunity. Tell them to put it in writing. I said, and remind them that willing isn't the same as credible. By 8:15, the lobby was a circus. News vans, cameras, Torai standing on the steps, reading from a crumpled statement, voice cracking about corporate betrayal and personal vendettas. I watched the live stream from my office. Sound off. Marcus called at 8:45. She's a train wreck on cable. CNBC's already fact-checking her claims against our press release. We're winning the narrative. Julian, stock's up 5%. Hold the line. I said, and tell legal to expect a restraining order request from her by noon. We'll countersue for legal fees. Already drafted, he said. Also, her uncle just issued a statement supporting the board decision, called it necessary for the long-term health of the company. Good, I said. That'll sting more than anything I could say. At 9 o'clock, the market opened. SDG ticked up another point. I stood by the window, watching the river, the same one Tori had faced last night when she thought she had leverage. Elena knocked once, then entered. She's gone. Security escorted her out when she tried to force her way past the turnstiles again. Police were already on scene. They'd been notified we'd be pressing charges for trespassing. Charges? I asked. Filed. Misdemeanor for now. We can upgrade if she comes back. I turned, and the family? Uncle Sterling's office released another statement, condemning her actions, pledging full cooperation with the SEC. He's already moved to dissolve the family trust's remaining stake, selling to us at a discount. Efficient. I said, he's a businessman. Elena replied, like you. She set a folder on my desk. Transition update, week 1. Inside, the new org chart, the audit timeline, the list of vendors to be cut, the international offices to be consolidated. I flipped to the last page. A single line item, potential acquisition targets, Q4. Elena, I said, yes, start with Sterling Logistics Southeast Asia. Her cousin runs it. Let's finish what we started. She didn't blink. Already on the list. I've got a preliminary valuation. We can move by October. Do it, I said, quietly. No leaks, no drama. Understood. She turned to leave, then paused. What about her? Torai. I looked back at the window. Somewhere in this city. She was packing a suitcase. Deux contact. Realizing the dawn had broken and she wasn't part of it anymore. Let her sue. I said, let her talk. Let her spend the next year explaining to federal prosecutors why I was angry isn't a legal defense. We've got the truth. We've got the paperwork. And we've got the votes. Elena nodded and left. I sat down, opened my laptop, and started drafting the email to the full staff. Short, clear, no triumph, no bitterness, just facts, effective today. I assume full authority as executive chairman of Sterling Drake Global. Our focus returns to disciplined growth. operational excellence, and shareholder value. Any question should be directed to Elena Ruiz, our new CEO. I hit send. Then I opened the bottom drawer and pulled out the last remnant of the marriage, the signed divorce decree. I scanned it, attached it to an email to my personal counsel with the note. Close the file. One more thing. I picked up the phone and dialed the one number I hadn't touched since the ruling. It rang twice. Then a click. Judge Hemsworth's chambers. A clerk answered. This is Julian Voss. Inform the judge that the matter we discussed has concluded. She can remove the conflict memo from her docket. Yes, Mr. Voss. Should we note a resolution? Note it as final. I said, and permanent. I hung up, leaned back. The office was quiet except for the hum of the servers down the hall. Somewhere, a printer spat out the morning reports. Somewhere, a trader bought another 1,000 shares. Somewhere, Tori Sterling realized that the only thing louder than her smirk was the silence that followed it. I opened the top drawer, pulled out a fresh legal pad, wrote one word at the top, next. Then I got to work.